Michael, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you, man.
Absolutely. Good to see you,
So,
man.
Mike, oh, sorry, what's that, Michael? Yeah,
I said, just good to see you, man.
always, man, always. Well, Michael and Chris are both play an important role over there at Etix, and I was at the Etix Blast conference, which was always so fun, but also like informational, and like I was really surprised by the things that you guys have going on, and also we had some very important conversations around like the state of the industry and it is a really really curious state. So I'm just grateful to have you both on the pod to talk about like what's going on with Etix and what your vantage point is around like the economy and yeah and all those topics. So anyway, why don't we just start off with like who are both of you? Intro yourself and like your and what you were doing before Etix and what you do at Etix now and what you're focused on.
Go ahead, Reklis.
Yeah. So Michael Reklis, my official title at Etix is I'm Director of Sales with a specialty in music venues here. Before it being at Etix, I was a concert promoter in North Carolina. I kind of worked as many different jobs in the music industry as I could, whether that was, being an assistant at a booking agency, working at a venue, running my own promotions company, um, interning at a label, whatever I could kind of get my hands on. And then it was about 18 years ago, I started working at Etix, which was supposed to be a maybe 2 or 3 year gig, kind of understand the ticketing industry. But here I am. So now, I try and get music venues or performing arts centers or really anybody that's selling tickets to choose us instead of some of the competitors. And along the way, I also work with Chris a lot. I'll let him introduce himself in his own role, but being part of the product team, trying to help move the product forward, figure out what our clients need, what would be useful to them, and yeah, that's my elevator pitch for what I do.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, how about you, Chris?
Yeah, so thanks, Reklis. That was a good introduction. I'm Chris Battaglino. I run our team here, the product team here at Etix. Unlike Reklis, I did not have a long tail of industry experience prior to coming here, but after about 13 years, I'm slowly figuring it out. And like Reklis too, I didn't expect to be here or in this industry this long, but once the claws get in, it's kind of hard to get out. So. Like I said, I've been here,
It's
I
addicting.
think going on 13 years. It is addicting. Yeah, it's a good place to be though. We enjoy it. We have a good team. We have a lot of fun, and this industry in general, it feels like there's always opportunities to do more things, to do more exciting things, and be part of some fun stuff.
Yeah, what's the scope and scale of Etix? Like, I don't know what high level numbers y'all share, but whatever you can share, that'd be great around like tickets sold and customer base and how many venues packs, like that type of stuff versus like some of the other things that Etix is known for, like state fairs and museums.
Sure. Yeah, Reckless, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, so one Etix, I mean, we're based in North Carolina. We've got a couple offices here in the US. We also have offices in China, Japan, and Germany. China is mostly a dev office that works with Chris's team. Japan and Germany handle our Asian and European operations. So Chris can maybe correct me, but in 2025, we sold over 100 million tickets in I think 30 different countries. So that's events happening in 30 different countries, not customers coming from 30 different countries. Um, and that really ranges from everything. So from performing arts centers, from arenas to small little 100 cap music venues, that kind of look like someone's basement, more or less. So kind of anything and everything in between. To the folks that would probably be watching this and aware of both Prism and Etix, um, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we've got somewhere over like or close to 4,000 individual clients. Some of those are small one-off things. Some of them are large festivals that are one-offs, and a lot of them are year-round clients. In the kind of music club space, there's probably about 600 or so music clubs. And then if I just had to guess, probably 100 to 150 performing arts centers. Um,
And out of
and
those like
then
600, out of those 600 clubs, like is that 600 unique kind of spaces or organizations?
It's probably unique spaces more than
Cool.
organizations.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can buy tickets. Basically, you can buy tickets at like 600 clubs around the country right now through Etix.
Yeah, something like that.
Cool. Amazing. Yeah, and you said like 130 packs?
That's probably, I don't know, Chris, if you have the right number. We should have gotten these numbers from Aaron. I know he's got a little spreadsheet that could have showed these to us, but yeah, that's probably
Approximations are fine. We can,
Yeah, that's in the
that's a good
ballpark for sure.
ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we're not submitting to an official census here, just ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to bring it up because just the scope and scale of what y'all are doing is like so impressive. And what is like for those that don't know, can you like how is the strategy split between like the work for like the fairs and the venues? Like what would you say like the company's most important initiatives are?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. The truth of the matter is the initiative is always on every one of them at all times. It's basically what it feels like. We used to years ago. It felt like this company, and even more so probably before I was here. But it used to be very cyclical, where we had our fair clients, and there was a busy season when fairs started spinning up through summer and fall, and slowly and steadily there's no slow season. It's all busy season now. So, when you kind of look across our clients, there's always something happening somewhere. And it's really been a matter of how do we support each of them where they are and what they're doing. And that is our challenge. I mean, I think you intuitively kind of summed it up, maybe even just between the lines there, but there really isn't a single way to handle the needs of all those clients in all different directions and in different business needs that they have. So that is a challenge for us, and there's not a single initiative, fortunately or unfortunately, that can handle it.
Yeah, I understand. So
Yeah.
another unique part about Etix is y'all have this like marketing wing, which I'm not aware of another company that provides like a team of people to market your events and on a contract basis and like gets into your mind state locally and like even execute some of these campaigns. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I'll take a step back too, and then tie it into this as well. Like in terms of the initiatives that we're working on and kind of the different types of clients that we have. What's been remarkable to me being here so long is the similarities between the different industries. A lot of people don't see that, but like if we're working with a fair, the primary driver of that fair's business is generally its concerts. So like the Minnesota State Fair, it might have 2 million people that come through its gates each year, but a lot of that is also coming from its 13,000 seat grandstand that's got current, acts, not the quote unquote state fair acts that you think of as being washed up or on their way up, like a Garth Brooks or like a Pitbull or something like that will be playing there. And then even just like the gate admission for like a fair is very similar to like what a festival would be and the needs of that, or even like our sports teams in Europe of like needing to have this various levels of access control so that this level of media can only get into this part of the arena during this time of the day, and the visiting team credentials can only get into this section, et cetera. Ends up being the same thing that you would need for, say, like a music festival if it was this is the VIP section and this is the general admission section. So even though they're seemingly really different, a lot of what we're working on is actually uh, applicable across the board. And it's kind of fun to see the things that we develop for music that get used by other industries or developed for other industries that get used by music. Most kind of right in that spot is we developed these freestanding kiosks about 6 years ago for casinos. And again, it's casinos. It doesn't seem like it's got a lot in common, but it's casinos concerts that we're actually selling the tickets for. And they're open 24/7, and they just don't want to have a box office open 24/7. So we built kiosks thinking it would be really niche and just for them, but music venues love them. And so we're putting them in clubs and performing arts centers all across the country.
And
Incredible.
And the
fairs and
way,
all other places
yeah,
too.
everywhere.
Interesting.
And the way I
It,
would tie that into your marketing question is
yeah.
that, it is something that's really unique to Etix. I'm not familiar with of another company doing it as well. I know for a minute there was a little offshoot of Ticketmaster, but I don't even think that's offshoot is still around. I think kind of lived its own life over a few years, and has been sunset. But yeah, that's the Rockhouse Partners team. It was a team of marketing professionals from the entertainment space um, that started their own thing in 2000, I want to say 9, and 2011 we acquired the company, and it's now fully a part of Etix. I always call it like the Etix marketing agency. It kind of acts as a independent marketing agency to help you with your digital space and digital ads, but only for Etix clients. And that's something that we do for music festivals, for fairs, for music venues, for performing arts centers. So it's the same team getting to work across that, because whether you're you're selling a kids event to a museum, or you're selling a rock concert, or an EDM festival, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be advertising on one of the meta platforms. You're going to be
Yeah,
on Google. You're going to be on TikTok. Like, you're still using all the same tools to promote your event.
got it. Um, so, and by the way, I just did some use some ChatGPT while we were talking there. I think if ChatGPT is right, Access does about 65 million tickets a year. And you just mentioned that you guys do 100 million tickets a year. So does that make Etix the second largest US ticketing platform? Is, or maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked up like SeatGeek or something like that, but yeah, I assume Access was number two to Ticketmaster. Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, I think it depends on how you want to measure it. I think one, SeatGeek or something like that. I know SeatGeek dabbles in primary, but they're
Hmm.
really a
Yep.
secondary platform that kind of shoehorns themselves into there. I don't know all of Access's numbers. I think, the way we always put it is we're the largest independently owned ticketing company in North America. Access, obviously being owned by AEG and a subsidiary of theirs. But yeah, I'm not, one, I don't know what numbers they release publicly versus what ChatGPT is picking up, So, uh, but I wouldn't be surprised
Good
if we
point about
sell.
independent. Yeah.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if we sell more tickets in more countries than they do.
Yeah.
I do think it's something
Is
that
the US your biggest market?
definitely,
Okay, by far.
I would say, and you correct me, Chris, but the US, Germany, Japan, and then probably the Philippines, where we work with one arena there, but they sell a lot of tickets. So
Yeah.
You work
It's probably 85% plus in North America.
you work with a arena in the Philippines?
yeah, you know where the Thrilla in Manila was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that arena. We've worked with them for about 10 years now.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Is it the only arena in the Philippines or
Uh,
Great
Good
question.
question. That's a good question for ChatGPT.
Yeah, there's your
Um,
ChatGPT question.
yeah.
podcasts are just going to be like have ChatGPT just like fact checking us as we're going. Maybe there's a whole AI conversation coming.
For sure.
Um,
I
but
was going to say real quick before we move on, Reckless made a good point. My comments about no single initiative, and I think he dug in exactly correctly, is there's certainly economies of scale with a lot of the things we do. And I think we've learned that more and more over time, from the product perspective, when we go to look at what roadmap looks like and what we're going to prioritize, we reach out internally to all of our teams and kind of, take a pulse of what are the things that are being asked for, kind of gather across the board. And it really is interesting. I've been surprised several times in the past, like Reckless was saying with something like kiosks, where you assume we're building something for that one vertical, and when you kind of take a straw poll of what people are interested in, you'll see a lot of that crossover from venues that you really just didn't expect. And that's great. I mean, it's good for us. It helps us prioritize things that truly are going to move the needle for our venues and help our teams internally too. So it is kind of fascinating how many similarities there are across the board.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The last question that I have, this Filipino arena is hilarious. It's just interesting. Better yet, did you have to like make the platform available in that language when you guys launched with this partner?
There were a bunch of things we had to do,
Uh,
just from the processing and all of that, of course, as you would imagine. But then, yeah, some of the translations and trying to localize parts of the platform. Every time we go into a new country, that's had to happen, and that was certainly an interesting one for us for sure.
Yeah. Something that's apparent to me in this conversation is like Etix does have like a wide breadth of accounts you guys serve, and at the same time, like I hear your point that there's crossover to a lot, and then clubs are in your DNA, and Prism has that as well. Like we have a growing number of like Broadway partners using Prism, and growing number of arenas, packs, clubs, and these are all, they all have stages with performances, but at the end of the day, like there's a ton of nuances, and what our focus is yeah, we want to make sure everyone's taken care of, but at the same time, that I don't know, Etix is at a different scale than Prism, but it does create challenges to balance all of those different initiatives. Yeah.
For sure. How has that mix changed for you guys over time?
I would say it was just a natural progression through like the continuum of like small clubs on the left where, by the way, I met Michael Reklis in Madison, Wisconsin 10 years ago, and he introduced me to who would become our first paying customer, a comedy club in Madison, Wisconsin, who's still using Prism. Shout out to Eva there. Yeah, 10 years later. And then, like bigger clubs would use us, and then all of a sudden we would get a knock on the door from like 1,000 capacity club, and then a pack would come along and say, "Hey, it turns out everything you guys have built is relevant to us." And it was just kind of a natural progression. And when we were with the packs, it turns out they do a lot of Broadway shows, and they're like, "Hey, settling with Broadways is slightly different than settling with like normal shows." So it's been a progression, and we check ourselves at the door and ask ourselves like, how much can we focus on really well, and are definitely, to your point, like I think the way to do it is exactly what you're saying, like what are the features that can echo through all of your cohorts, and how can you just make Prism better across the whole thing? But
And
I don't know, Reckless, if you can relate to this. I oftentimes find myself saying like, if I could have never left small clubs, I wouldn't have. But the truth is, it's like some of these larger partners help make this thing financially stable and allow us to kind of work on the clubs, which really has my like heart and passion. But it's not the largest industry that could alone, support a tech company. Yeah.
yeah. What's been, as you've kind of moved across those verticals, what's been the biggest challenge for you guys?
Um, I just think it's learning that every is exactly what we just talked about. Just like what are the features that can cut through everything, and how much can we do realistically and do well. Yeah, is the biggest thing. I appreciate the questions.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear, from a product perspective. It feels to me that same way, where it's always like the
Yeah,
90% is usually pretty easy. It's those last 10 yards that are often the most difficult. And the
yeah.
things that are usually very either vertical specific or client specific or even request specific, that are often most challenging.
Yeah, I think it's a formula of size of the company and setup of the team and how much something really needs to be successful. So, Reckless, early on, there were some conversations when y'all first started seeing Prism pop up, which was like, is Prism going to eventually get into ticketing? Well, it's something that like people were curious about. And I'm not saying it was Etix directly, but pretty much all of them had said that to me at one point. And it's like, okay, by not building ticketing, just building our integration suite out really well, we can handle a broader audience of folks in our core market. And it allowed us to launch Insights, for instance, which is like for lack of better words, our Polestar competitor, where our partners can choose to share their data, and then as a benefit, they get network-wide data, which the feedback coming from that has been like unbelievable. So I do think it's like scope of what you focus on too. Like, yeah, by staying focused on offer, settlement, workflow, data, integrations, we can serve a broader audience that care about that. And we're not also running a ticketing company. And there's, and Reckless, you and I have talked about that. There's some people who have gone out there and tried to bundle 3 or 4 different companies' solutions into one. And it's just a lot to build and to maintain responsibly. And at this moment in time, I believe focus is the way that you can go wide and deep. But I don't know, Chris, can you relate to that? But with that being said, like Etix is bigger than Prism, and I know y'all have this like POS that's coming out, which I really want to talk to you about.
I
So
know. I was
maybe
about to
segment
say
into
like,
that. But you're 30 years in now. You're 30 years in, and
yeah, I
you
was
have
about to
100
say
million
like
ticket sales. Yeah,
we've been focused on the core aspect of like ticketing, ticketing, ticketing. And, like I said, most of it, even the stuff that doesn't seem like it's about music, actually still revolves around music. But we are, branching out into more family events and attractions and stuff like that isn't really tied into it the same way. But um, now that we've got that core, and obviously we still have to keep building it and making better and all of that, but we're actually kind of starting to branch into these other aspects of like, doing point of sale for like your food and beverage for your bar, whether that's at a festival or if you've got an actual brick and mortar, you're open year round venue. Which
So
I'll
talk
let
to us
Chris.
about that idea. Like, where did that come from? Where is it at in the process? Have you launched yet and gotten feedback? Like, what's the vision for it into the future if there is one outside of just getting it widely used? Yeah.
Chris, I'll
Yeah,
let
sure.
you
So
take that. Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Matt, you had started to say, can I relate to what you were saying about wanting to focus and build core? Absolutely can relate. And like Reklis said, there's a big but at the end of that, and that is, we kind of reach this point where we get a critical mass of clients coming to us and saying, "Hey, we love Etix ticketing. Your core product is solid. We use it. We love it." Um, our biggest problem now is that we don't just need ticketing. We need all of these other ancillary services that, like Reklis said, are not ticketing itself, but revolve very closely around ticketing. And that was kind of how that is the genesis for things like Etix Octave, our point of sale, and then Seat Relay, our secondary platform. It's just kind of enough folks come to you and say, it'd be so much easier if I just had to go to one place for all these
Yeah.
things and I didn't have multiple contracts and I didn't have multiple people to deal with. Our CMO puts it as one throat to choke, which I think is apt in that
Why,
scenario.
why 10 years ago when Reckless and I met, did y'all not go into Prism, for instance, and just decide we'll just partner with Prism? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds easy, perhaps,
It is not
but
easy.
it
I'll
is
tell you,
not easy, right?
I got the battle scars to prove it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for
not at
sure.
all.
And I think,
And we don't get a
honestly,
dollar a ticket either, by the way. And I know there's
yeah,
like
sure.
strings attached to those dollar ticket fees, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit the nail on the head that it's just not easy. And while we probably had some of the inherent knowledge through team members and folks that have experienced some of the things you've experienced or been on the other side, um, it's always easier said than done. I mean, you recognize that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So where is the POS system at? Like
Yeah,
yeah.
so Octave, we launched Octave. We started beta testing it in summer 2024. Maybe even late or a little earlier than that, perhaps. But so we're in, 18, 24 months full in. We've got double-digit clients that are using it regularly. We've had some one-offs, some of the festivals Reklis referred to, and some of the other folks that have one-off events have been using it. Feedback's been solid. The best thing about something like this is you've got folks that we already have a great relationship with that say, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." And a lot of Etix clients are willing to test things or try things or dip their toes in water and see how it works. And that's been fantastic for us. It gets us the feedback we
Amazing.
need to improve things. And so yeah, so we're like I said, we're fully engaged with clients in Octave now. We've got all different sorts of venues using it for everything from food and bev to food and bev and merch to other things, pretty much anything they want to sell. And like I said, the best part is we keep getting feedback and we just keep improving it based on that feedback. It's been a lot of fun, actually.
Super interesting. Oh man, I had a question. Oh yeah, this is what it was. So for those that don't know, the CEO of Etix is quite the prolific guy, and there's a festival that he owns in your home office of Raleigh. I think I don't know what's public, but there's other things that he's invested in. I won't say anything else. But he like is these partners of do these end up being partners of Etix? And was Hopscotch one of the first people to hop in the POS? And is that an advantage of like him kind of having a portfolio inside of the music ecosystem?
Yeah, yes to all those things.
Yeah.
Hopscotch was absolutely one of the first places we used it, and actually another music event that he put on prior to that was the actual first Octave event. And yeah, it's huge, for someone like me that just wants to test things, and I speak for our team, as a whole, that just wants to see things out there and being used. It's fantastic to have kind of these test scenarios where the risk is certainly important, but maybe less so than a venue client of ours.
Yeah, it's a warm arrangement. Yeah,
That's
everyone
right.
wants to succeed
I mean, don't get me
unequivocally.
wrong, he'll yell at me if it doesn't work, but
Of
it's
course, of
better him
course.
yelling at me than our
Yeah,
clients.
someone who
So
has no skin in the game, or they're just doing it because they believe in it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice home field advantage there.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think he truly believes putting your money where your mouth is a great way to prove that you believe in something. So he does
Absolutely.
exactly
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, he is I've loved getting to know him over the years. Such an interesting entrepreneur in the space. And I think it's just really brave the way that he's held on to Etix, and it's gone through investors that he bought out, and some of the fundings, and then an acquisition, I think an acquisition that got spit out from the DOJ. And like, Travis has just grown it over the years into such an incredible business. And that was another thing that came clear to me at Etix Blast. I don't mean to buff y'all the whole time, but it's really impressive what he's done and his philosophy on, like, being an ecosystem partner. He certainly puts his money where his mouth is. Yeah.
Yeah, and he lets us take risks too, which is great.
Love that. Yeah. Etix is like this company that's been around for 30 years. And like, Chris, like I'm curious to hear your perspective on, like, what are, there's like newer systems that are popping up, and how do you balance the idea between, like, on one side it's like battle tested for 30 years, on the other side like there's an agility that's accessible through like modern tech, and like, yeah, what's your overall, is this a topic y'all think about, and like how are you kind of staying relevant with the time? So on one side it's an advantage, you've been around for 30 years, but the software doesn't like look like it was built 30 years ago or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I'll say in some cases, we feel the pain of not being able to use new tech immediately for things like UI and some things that perhaps do feel a little bit older. And that's been a challenge as long as I've been here. Like you said, on the positive is we've got the tools in place. They're tested, they're battle tested. They've been used by dozens, if not hundreds of venues and thousands of venues in
Yep.
some cases. But yeah, we have to constantly sort of manage the delicate balance between building new things with our resources and making sure that the long tail of things that have been there for, in some cases, like you're saying, 20, 25 plus years, our clients expect them to look good and work well and be modern. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's constantly a challenge for us for sure. It's something that we talk about all the time in our product meetings.
And yeah, just to state it clear, like, that's my sense of y'all, is that you do find a way to, like, benefit from both of these things. Like your stay, like your releases every time I go to Etix Blast is like, we pushed 10,000 features and did all these releases. So it's always super impressive. And I think, some people in the space have been driven to, like, some independents have been driven to Ticketmaster or Access because they have this perception that they got burned by some of the startups that, like, were fireworks. I won't name names. It's pretty obvious who I'm talking about. And then, got kicked around by a bunch of systems, and like, we're just going to go with Access because they need it to work. They just need it to work, and it's going to work for AG, or, Live Nation is the same thing. And like, I'm always there reminding folks that, like, an independent version of that is Etix. Like, it's something that's been around for 30 years. So yeah, Michael, do you think that's something that people go with you for? And is that a part of your conversations? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for sure. Especially when folks have been burned in the past by some of this turnover in the space. I mean, again, I didn't mean to be in this industry in ticketing for 18 years, much less just at Etix, but having seen so many companies come and go, there are so many new competitors to the space every year, every few years. And just most of them haven't been really built for the long haul. So it's really great to be part of a company that looks at it as a marathon, not a sprint. So that's definitely an
Agreed.
advantage for us, I think. And it really goes both ways, because it can be a disadvantage to not have the sexiest looking tech out there and not have the most modern looking stuff. I know Chris and his team, we're in the midst of overhauling our front end UI so that when the customer is buying a ticket, it actually looks more modern, has a better feel. And so hopefully we'll be able to tease that out later this year. Maybe
Exciting.
when you're at Blast in September, you can,
Yeah, I'll try and make it back.
be one of the
Three kids is
folks that
making it more difficult to travel, but I would love to make it back. Yeah.
I understand. Well, we'll send you videos. Someone from your team
Yeah.
can tell you.
Blast was the last trip I took before having my third. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah. Yeah, thank
Um,
God it's going great. But yeah, good points, Reckless. Well, let me it's an interesting conversation just about like, the choices and stuff. But again, like one of the things that's super curious about Etix is like y'all's strategy in the secondary. So can you share about like what secondary features you have? It'd be interesting to zoom out and just kind of see your perspective, Reckless, and Chris, you too, about just what you've seen happen in secondary over the last 10 years, what you think is going to happen. It's like one of the messiest topics in the industry. So, yeah, why don't we start with like what you have to address the secondary, and then we'll kind of get into like the macroeconomic conversation around it.
Sure, yeah. So the end result of all of those things you're kind of leading to, similar to POS, we had clients come to us and say, "Hey, I'm missing out on revenue from secondary sales. I'm missing out on email addresses from patrons that come to my venue. I don't have full view into who these people are when all these transactions are happening." In other places. And there's always the worst part of it, which is the terrible customer service situation when someone comes up with a bad ticket and you've got a ticket taker that's staring at this poor patron and neither of them can do anything about this ticket that doesn't scan because they bought it on a secondary market that has no relation to the primary and no chain of ownership. So anyway, I mean, I know we all know about all those problems. What we kind of said is, hey, this is something we can help our clients with. And we've been working we started about 24 months ago working on Seat Relay, which is our Etix integrated secondary product. And essentially for Etix client venues, if they wish to turn on secondary for their venue or for one or more performances, events, it doesn't matter, totally up to them. They can do so. And we're offering exactly what we saw with some competitors that are no longer around, that you can have folks sign up on a wait list for sold out events. Later this year, we're going to launch our peer-to-peer sales, which is a more traditional sort of step-up model of I can set my price as a seller and have a buyer come and buy, where and when they want.
So as a consumer, if I buy an event for Black Pumas, and if the team has peer-to-peer resell on, I can press a button that essentially says like distribute my ticket. So as long as there's someone on the waiting list that can receive it, and there's just like an immediate transfer, is that how it works?
Yeah, that's right. And what we're doing on the back end is we're invalidating that original because we have a still chain of ownership over that ticket, the original ticket. We
Yeah,
can invalidate that original ticket and create a brand new order, issue a new barcode
cool.
to the buyer. So there's never any problems with those tickets when the secondary buyer
That makes sense.
shows up at the show.
Yeah, that's an important nuance there. Are you considering like I know some people like to like distribute there's like some features some other folks have to like distribute to like other secondaries. Is that something that's on your mind and philosophically aligned with what you want to do, or are you attacking it like a totally different way?
Yeah, that's tough. We've had conversations with a lot of those secondaries you're talking about. We've gotten pretty far with some of them, still always kind of keeping the channels open. And I think Reckless can talk to it better about the expectation from clients that is available. So it's something we're always considering. It's not something we've yet done officially with any of the secondaries.
Yeah, so just the overall thing as a primary philosophy for Etix is what we want to do is give our clients the ability to control their own destiny, right? Like not be a place where it's like, look, if you're an Etix client, here's the way it works. And these are strict rules, which you sometimes see from a bigger company like a Ticketmaster or an Access. Like it's much more top-down directed. And so when it comes to something like secondary, it's like, well, what do you want to do in the space as a venue? Do you want to offer this? Do you not want to offer this? And there's still some folks that really just want to have it turned off. They want to ignore it. They want to pretend it's not there and have it go, hopefully it goes away. And other people that are embracing it a little bit more. So with like the seat relay tools that Chris was talking about, yes, a buyer could sell their ticket, maybe set their own price, but it'll always be within the parameters that the venue puts on it. So if they want to say, no, you can't resell this for more than $70, then that's the rule on Seat Relay, and it's in the venue's control. So they can have their own resale policies based on what they feel is best for their business and their
Cool.
customers. And the
That's some
same
good tech.
thing goes
Yeah.
with the distributed commerce in terms of like putting it out to other secondary platforms. That is something we recognize that we'll probably have to do here. And as Chris has said, we've been in talks with several different potential partners for that. And that's just something, again, where it's going to be something we want to put a tool in our venue's hands. And if you want to use it,
Yep.
it's sort of like dynamic pricing, right? Which
Yep.
ties into this. The reason dynamic pricing is a big topic is because of secondary sales and them being out of control and artists
Yeah.
wanting to be
Do y'all
able to
do
take
dynamic
control.
pricing?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
We let
Cool.
you set your own rules and have that prices fluctuate up and down based on the demand.
Is that like using like machine learning or AI to like, knock up a $25 price to 50, or is it manual or yeah.
Right now, you're setting rules, so it's not like an AI is determining the rules of it. What we're doing is letting you determine the velocity of a sale. So, for example, just using made up figures real quick, let's say you've got a $50 ticket and the price should go up to $75. Should that happen because you sold 100 tickets in a week, or should it happen because you sold
Cool.
100 tickets in 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And so you get to
Interesting.
put a time parameter on there of like, oh, we sold this many tickets in just 30 minutes. That means we should raise the price by $25.
You
But
have an automation like kind of
yeah,
interface that allows people set like a couple triggers.
yep, exactly.
There's a really
Put a
interesting.
ceiling on it and put a floor on it, right? You don't, because if you overprice it accidentally, you might want the price to come back down, but
Yeah.
you don't want to give it away, right? So
Yeah.
putting ceilings and floors in there too.
It could be a good use case for AI, and I think there's a curiosity around what's best. Is it best to just kind of, well, some people opt to just be like, let the AI kind of do things up and down, or is some kind of combination of the two going to be essential? Or maybe you go in there for a show and I mean, if the world is our oyster, I'd be curious down the road for like, people who have access to insights and Etix, then the AI can like basically tell you like, hey, this is a show that's right for high demand, and as a result, like here's the parameters that could be interesting. But again, some of these are like a little pie in the sky, less pie in the sky than they once were, but just planting that seed. I'd like to see that happen in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a fantastic way to put that. Is the insight into perhaps what event you should be using is a great use case for AI. I think when you look at the somewhat conservative nature of a lot of the folks we work with, having AI in control fully of pricing is something
Yes.
that will not always
Yeah.
be well received. But I love the idea of saying, hey, based on these inputs, this would be a fantastic event to add dynamic pricing to, or here's the settings and controls you might want to put in place for that, and then allowing them to do so that they still have the control ultimately.
Yeah, this makes me think of like a kind of a broader industry conversation around like the seemingly conflict of interest from like what the end consumer wants, and if the consumer really wants the experience of ticket sales surging and desurging, similar to like plane prices, or like is the hope for the industry something like much more simple? And then regardless of like what's the better experience for the consumer, the other angle that you could go is it's really hard to run a live music venue, and the events that are that hot in demand, and like they need to collect that revenue, and if there's a market of people that want to pay for it, then ideally there's always an affordable ticket. But some of these these venues got to stay in business, and that's ultimately what the consumer wants, is so they have options on where to go see concerts. But you see what I'm saying, that there is this kind of conflict there. And do you have like customers on that kind of look at it the same? And um
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say there's a few thoughts in there. One, again, a lot of this is being driven because of the market that scalpers created, right? Um, and so one, my personal hope, as just an individual is just like I would like for more states or even like a federal rule to be passed that would allow venues and artists to work together to put caps on prices that are meaningful. Because I think that's really where this belongs, is letting the venues and the artist determine what the pricing should be, and then having strict rules to really follow and enforce that. Right now, we basically live in the Wild West where speculators, private equity, all sorts of folks are able to go in there and use this as just, open season to do whatever pricing experiments they want to do.
Right.
Um,
So basically, whether the venue does it or not, it's going to happen in the secondary. So then there's a question of
yeah.
like, you can't beat
So
them, join them, and like, and
yeah.
then
So I mean,
if you don't, then you're just going to lose out on that revenue and that data. And
right.
hey guys, real quick, let me take a 5 minute bathroom break. I'm just going to pause
Sure.
the again. Yeah. So okay, back from the bathroom break. We just covered the kind of philosophic divide of like, if you can't beat them, join them, and if you don't take advantage of the secondary, like there is going to be price volatility anyway. So it's best to put the power in the venue's hands. And some people still feel philosophically different than that, and that makes a lot of sense. One giant industry topic I wanted to pick your brain on is all-in ticketing, and like, what's the general? Are you all seeing any like tangible changes from all-in ticketing? I mean, full disclosure, and maybe you can address this. Like, my perception on all-in ticketing is that it has the potential over the long run to drive down ticket prices. That's kind of Captain Obvious there, because you're just having to advertise a all-in price, but I also have this sneaking suspicion that it could tweak like the deal dynamics for ticketing companies. Like, if a promoter used in this old paradigm, like, arguably got kind of like foolhardy with, well, we really need $1 million, so let's just stuff $8 in the fee, and we'll pay back whoever wrote the check, and it's fine if we do it for 5 years or whatever. But like now, and before, the perception was, if that's at checkout, then so be it. It's like, it's kind of a horn of plenty. It doesn't really affect people's buying patterns, and you either take the money or you don't. But like now, since it has to be advertised up front, I wonder if there is a slow but sure behavior change over time. So anyway, big kind of a bit of a monologue there. I opened up Pandora's box, and come on in with me.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fair question. One, I understand it from like the customer point of view, right? Like wanting to know what you're getting into, right up front. I'll also just note, because a lot of people kind of forget this part of history, is that the EU passed an all-in pricing rule in like 2011 or something like that. And since Live Nation and Ticketmaster had already merged at this point, they, are a global company, they decided they would do what a lot of global companies do. It's like, well, if we have to do it for all of Europe, we'll just do it worldwide. And so for about a 2 month period, and I want to say it was 2011, but I might be wrong about the year exactly. Um, Ticketmaster and Live Nation went to an all-in pricing model where everything was up front. And it really killed their sales. So they stopped doing it in the US and went back to the old model. And I've always maintained that that's because the competition
Dude,
didn't have to
that's
do
a
it, right?
really interesting use case that I haven't heard brought up. So thank you for that. But I was cutting you off to
No,
making a
yeah,
very
but
important point.
I think to me the thing has always been like, well, what is everyone else doing, right? So if everyone else has the fee on at the end, then doing all in pricing seems probably a silly way to go, because you're just making your ticket seem more expensive than it really is. But if everyone has to play by the same rules, then theoretically it shouldn't really affect things. And what I can say is like, I've got both like a data version of this story and an anecdote version of this story, where the data version is, as all-in pricing, started to go across the country, we would have clients that kind of got caught off guard and were like, oh, wait a second, like I didn't realize this had to go into effect, and start asking questions. And then they were kind of just like saying like, this is killing our sales. This is killing our sales. And so I would go look and be like, okay, well, what were your sales the month before? What were they a year ago? What were, like, look at it in these like 3 month intervals. And for the most part, for like 90% of the venues that I did that with, they were selling the same or slightly more tickets after all in pricing went in. At the same time, I can tell you anecdotally, as a customer, me and my brother like to go to some sporting events that sometimes require us to go on like a StubHub or a SeatGeek or something. And we're looking at them, and I'll be like, man, $132. What is it going to be after the fees? And I forget that there's not going to be fees at the end. I work in the industry. I deal with this all the time. And it's gotten me to second guess even continuing into a purchase process before. So, I don't know if it's just like all in pricing happened at the same time that a lot of other macroeconomics kind of started to hurt the live entertainment space, or if it's really driving it down. Chris, you're way more in the data and stuff like that than I probably am, but uh, I don't know if I really. I didn't get to any of the dynamics of deal composition. I'll let Chris answer, and then I can come back around to that, Matt, if you want.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said so far, though it's totally true. And I recall StubHub doing the same thing in 20, maybe 13 or 14, where they briefly went to all in and rolled that back super fast too. I don't know if it was months or even weeks, maybe. But yeah, I think the level playing field that Reckless is talking about is the most important thing, because it's got to be a mind shift of all the consumers that come to any ticketing company or any reseller, whichever it is, and know that they're getting all in pricing, so that it really is on a single plane for everybody. And we've had to, Matt, we've had to make sure we state that very boldly and clearly in the checkout flow when all in is enabled, to make sure that we're making that clear to customers for all the reasons Reckless said.
And
Yeah, my
in terms
my
of
guess. Oh, okay. Yeah, my guess here is like look, there's clear real world examples where people have done all in before and it hurt sales. So I think therefore it's probably hurting sales. It's an interesting point that there's a counter to that headwind that everyone's doing it at once. But I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Like there's a behavior change that's gonna persist over time. You're in the industry Reckless, and it's hard for you even to remember just the pattern of when you check out and the tickets up front. So it's just going to take time. I think I'm curious like to see where it settles out, and know it. I don't know if anyone has that crystal ball truly, but yeah, I think look, it's safe to say it's probably hurting sales, but that's somewhat countered by people. Yeah, everyone doing it once, and
So one thing I would also say here, and this goes back to like the secondary market thing, and just a plug for our friends at NIVA to like, you're a venue and you're seeing this or listening to this, like if you're not involved with NIVA or the advocacy efforts around Fix the Tix and like legislation on this, please get involved, because the fact that it is the Wild West in the secondary market means that customers have no idea what a show costs. So you have a $50 show, right? You're the venue, you're the promoter, you've negotiated with the artist's team for exactly this deal, right? The ticket needs to be $50. But if it's on, StubHub for $82,
yeah,
then what does it matter if your fee is $10 and you put it on top, and you have to
yeah,
show that it's
yeah,
60. I mean, there's been times, and I know everyone that's in watching this or listening to this has experienced this at some point, where we have a venue call us and we're like, we've got this $25 ticket. Um, there's about 200 tickets left, and someone just called us bitching at us because they bought it for $250. And I don't remember if it was StubHub or Vivid. It was one of them, and they're just mad that we're gouging them as a customer and as a fan when there's still plenty of tickets available at a tenth of the cost. So again, until there's actually some real rules around how these things are priced and who has control over that, then I'm not sure how much we'll see that really get affected.
yeah.
So
What just a slight transition, which is a related topic. Like, what are y'all hearing about like the economy? And because obviously this goes into it. Like, it didn't help that this got put on to a consumer that was generally feeling pain. If you look at all the consumer confidence indexes. So do you have a crystal ball and you could tell us what's going to happen in 26, or better yet, like what's the general vibes that you're picking up? And yeah,
Wish we did. I mean, I think like anything, it doesn't even matter what the inputs are. Like you said, if the consumer confidence isn't there, there's only so many discretionary dollars to go around. And, obviously our industry is one of the first things that people, I think, assume they can do without, when things get tight. So I think those confidence, keep an eye on consumer confidence for sure, because that's really what's going to kind of drive probably the next 6, 8, 12 months.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say just in general, it's you can kind of see not just from talking to venues, but looking at it as like the economy, I think, has hurt sales more than anything else. Um, and so trying to find ways to be creative. If you are the venue, if you are the promoter, if you're an agent, out there thinking about how to price for your artist, I would advise, I know it's tough for artists to tour and their costs are all way up too. Um, it's just not easy on anybody in any aspect of this. But if there's any way you can get your prices, below $30 or something, like I think $30 is like a real mental thing. And it might be different in different markets. Maybe it's 40 in some markets, maybe it's 25 in others. But even if it's the difference of $28 versus $30, just something where the consumer doesn't feel like this is another place where they're getting squeezed.
So
Or
check this
anything you
out.
can
Oh
show
yeah,
to
go
show
ahead.
for value. No, you've got all the insights. You've got
Yeah.
hundreds of venues of data
Yeah.
that are,
Uh,
are are willing to share anonymously. So
yeah. I mean, the sales are going up. I think the big question is expenses, you know? No question sales have gone up, specifically like across the industry as a whole. And I feel it's tale of two cities. There's venues that are thriving, there's venues that are hurting. Packs and kind of like multi-purpose venues I found are relatively resilient right now. I don't know if maybe Packs it's kind of like donor base and their like clientele is a little bit more affluential. And yeah, and then like any music venue that we see has like a restaurant, I think the need to not make all the profit off of the door is helpful. But I have good reason to be optimistic, frankly. And by the way, again, we're trusting ChatGPT here, but I asked it for what's inflation rate over the last 4 years. 2022, 8%, 2023, 4.1%, 2024, 2.9%, 2025, 2.7%. Now, I know we have a very politically motivated industry. I'm not doing anything but reading statistics and saying if policy is good or not. But that's a good sign for inflation. So I think, salaries have to catch up and yeah, none of us have a crystal ball, but yeah, God willing, it goes better and expenses just kind of inflation stays low. Um,
yeah, I
I
think
tend to think that there's some like weird cosmic shifts around like larger bands getting pushed up to the arena level because of the pent up demand and some of the venues just not getting the shows they might have and like I don't think the arena can sustain the level of shows. Like the Moody Center is like doing an unbelievable amount of shows and that's like a post-COVID thing. So I think there will be some balancing forces there. And man, I can't help it. I'm like inherently an optimist, and I'm not trying to gloss over the fact that there's definitely some real pain out there, even with our best partners. But I'm
no,
hopeful, y'all.
I would say, one, that none of us here are policy wonks that can say this policy or that policy or whatever. We
Absolutely.
just we live in the economy that we live in, and we have to deal with that as the reality. So I will say, um, to that. It's like I remember anecdotally, I can't remember what tours it was, too many folks getting pushed into arenas too quickly and then having to scale back or cancel tours. So I think that can happen. I think maybe a promoter or an agent on could maybe speak more directly to like if if shows are skipping markets or skipping venues because of festivals or larger opportunities. But in terms of your optimism, is like, yeah, someone, I started promoting concerts 25 years ago, been doing this in ticketing for 18 years. Like, um, you see ebbs and flows, you see, good and bad happen. Um, so yeah, we are in a slump of the economy, but one way I always think about that is when you're on the downside, then that probably means you're closer to the upswing. So, um, to
Yeah,
to
these
to
things ebb
share
and
your
flow. It's
to
it's
share your optimism, like
yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping it's 2026 and not 2027 that we don't have to wait another year before the
Yes,
upswing.
God
But
willing. God
um,
please. God please. Um, okay, well, thank you for the attempt at looking into the crystal ball. I learned a lot from your perspective there. I think I reinforced some of my optimism, which I should always check my bias at the door about like about my predictions about is this what I want to see or is this what I think will happen? I wasn't so optimistic in 22 and 23, and I'll put some chips on the optimistic side. I want to end the conversation about about AI, and it's just such a mind-blowing topic. And like, I'm curious from both of you, Chris, is AI has AI crept into your everyday conversation like the way that it has for us? And what do you what's your perspective on it? Do you use it to build? Is there AI features that you'd like to get to? Are you guys brainstorming AI features? Another kind of big question. Yeah, we talked about like using insights to like predict and price all in. So like, maybe we can skip over that one and just kind of answer the question more broadly about what you're seeing with AI and even from like
Yeah,
a builder in software.
sure. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was going to say first, though, I mean, I love what you guys are doing with that. I think it's a perfect use for AI, an actual valuable one, not one that just kind of shines and sparkles, but taking big sets of data that you have and making sense out of it in a way that benefits your
Thank you.
customers. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's fantastic. That's kind of where we're at in terms of how we want to use it. Um, from personal perspective, I think you're asking kind of, behind the scenes. I use it daily in my life, and our team, we pretty much all do. And we've gained a lot from the ability to share,
Are you
across
using
having
like English prompting to code generation stuff?
our teams are not, so they're doing the dev side's doing some of that for mostly for proof of concept and some visuals, just for speeding up how fast we can get things done and how quickly we can get feedback on them. So they're being really smart about how they're truly using it in terms of nothing's really going to production that was built by AI. But we're finding that we can speed up some of the iterations that we're doing prior to production to get feedback from clients and internal folks and share some of the ideas we have. So that's kind of, I
Is
would
the
say that.
concern of like your engineers quote unquote vibe coding, does it come down to like quality? Is it explicitly like, hey, you can't use Claude code to like, push up to production? Like is there like an intentional decision, or is it just kind of culturally like that's where things have landed? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of both. There's certainly some folks who use it a lot more than others. And I would say that historically, the head of our dev team is pretty conservative in his approach. At Etix, he would tell you, and I'd probably agree that we've never been bleeding edge. We've kind of been behind the first sort of wave in most cases. And I think that's what
The
he's.
archer is behind the tip of the spear. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
likes to
right,
be.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where he kind of wants to live, right? And he's been
Yeah.
pretty intentional in explaining that to our teams and in the way that that kind of trickles down to them. But like I said, we've got folks that I use it on the product side every day, and there are certainly
Yeah.
developers that are using it every day to speed up what they're doing and be more intelligent about it. But obviously, security, of course, is super important, and
Of
we want to make
course.
sure we're not exposing anybody to anything we should not. So.
Do you think
Um,
that there's like an AI changing course around like using AI to build e-ticks? Like let's talk about like the future of ticketing and AI. Like, do you think there's a world where people don't go to etix.com and type in the artist name and select the quantity, but it's more agent-based, conversational, like I pick up my phone, hey, who's all the bands in town in the next 2 months? Look at my Spotify following, maybe it aggregate and syncs with um bands in town, and like he's like, okay, here's the artist that I think you would like. Okay, for Mac Miller, grab 3 tickets. Okay, the AI goes and says, here's the price, all in. Do you want to proceed? I've got your credit card and file. Yes, and then boom,
yeah,
you have your tickets. Like,
we're
yeah,
there, man. It's absolutely happening. My call right before this was with a company helping us navigate AEO and visibility and AI search and what that might look like for us.
yeah,
So it's absolutely happening. And I don't know that we'll immediately jump in, but we have
yeah,
to be having those conversations now because it's going to
yeah.
happen fast.
Yeah, it's curious to see here, like, what's all of our ecosystem roles in this thing coming to life? Like, does Etix just make sure that they have the right APIs, or maybe for those that don't know, an MCP server is an API for an LLM, where like, you like you can base Etix could choose, or Prism could choose to give Claude or ChatGPT access in a secure way to data and like read and write access, where you can ask it for data out of Etix, and you could also be a consumer and say, purchase it, or like, is it your job to create that experience firsthand? And I think more will be revealed about that. And like, look, I think I don't know. I tried to do this on ChatGPT and it was an unbelievable miss. It was so much faster to just go to the website. But like, it's curious, I'm almost like it's just why would it not happen that the ticket buying experience changes to that? And I don't know, like, what do you think Etix's role in that economy is? Is it to make sure that, yeah, again, like
I,
you have what you need for to
I think,
enable that experience through other things? Go ahead, Michael.
yeah, I think that there's, obviously like the part of the limitation will be like how good do agents get and how quickly. Because a lot of that is, seems a little bit more theoretical or it should be coming soon, but it'll be here at some point, right? Um, I would say one thing that we have to do on this, and I think Chris would definitely agree, is there is a security element to this with making sure that you're only letting good actors in, right? And that is the convenience for good actors, right? To use AI and agents to make your life simpler of like, hey, band's in town, like what concert should I be going to? And like, go ahead and buy tickets for me. And then doing that and
Oh
navigating that
wow.
for you.
Yeah. If the
But
bots had control of that
right,
ability.
when it's a bad actor, and that's just if it's a scalper, right? Like a scalper, and then be able to do what they want to do with their prices. But
But
there's
Michael, and
truly bad
please go
actors that
ahead.
are
Yeah.
using, they've stolen Matt Ford's identity or credit card or whatever. And if they're using an AI agent just to go buy 100 concert tickets with your Visa, we have to also be vigilant to stop that too, so that we're not letting fraudulent activity on the platform from these agents. So
Uh,
it's a double-edged sword where it could be really convenient and maybe we could really increase sales, but if you increase sales by 20% and all of that was just chargebacks, then you didn't really do yourself any
yeah.
favors.
Do
So
you hand the keys to Kingdom over to the bots and create that experience? And again, this is me waving the wand, but I had this thought that AI, given that it's intelligent, could it could send someone to the primary over the secondary. It's not hard for we could go in ChatGPT and ask like what is McMiniman's primary ticketing platform, and it knows the difference between primary and secondary because it's
yeah,
AI. It's just trust me, bro, on that one.
no,
So like, could it also discern like, is this a real person executing this, or is a bot executing it? Like maybe that's something that does allow the agent experience to come. And I think you're not arguing against it. You're just making like the Etix point that maybe y'all aren't bleeding edge, but you're right there and you're playing the long game you agree with it, but it just has to be done with like with responsibility and at the right pace and there's no rush, and I kind of agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And you asked for what our role is, and ultimately it's the same as what we are now. It's to be the source of truth behind all of this and make sure that since we have kind of those keys that we're only letting the right folks through the door.
Yeah, you're issuing the barcode, you're tracking it, you're getting the data behind it, you're reporting on it, and I feel that same way with Prism. It's a good partnership. As we wrap up, I just want to tell you, I mentioned at the Etix conference that we were enabling folks to sign up for insights, whether or not they're using Core Prism. So as long as they're using Etix, and that's live now. So we should talk about a way to kind of let people know that they can get access to this data. Again, this is the clearest example of like self promotion possible. But the feedback has really been amazing. It's like, wow, one show Insights gave me the data to like ask for an $8,000 offer instead of a $15,000 offer. And in one show, it doubled its ROI,
It's great.
yeah,
So I would love through our integration, I would love to get more people on there because I think it's just a net benefit for the industry. But anyway, you guys, one of the first integration partners, Michael, you personally walked me into the door of some of my first deals and have been a huge help ever since. And I hope I've returned some favors as well along the
yeah,
way.
for
And
sure.
yeah, and yeah, anyway, it's a great partnership and this was informative, really interesting conversation. I learned a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We appreciate you having us.
thank
Yeah.
you for having us, man.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. All right. Well, here's to a good 2026 where the economy turns around, right?
That's right.
All optimism.
Woo, let's
E-
go.
Everybody goes to live events every day.
And
That's
buys
right.
alcohol. Damn it.
That's right. They support their venues. They buy some booze.
All right, y'all.
Um,
Yeah, peace and love. Appreciate you.
all
Thanks,
right,
Matt.
later.